Hey guys, welcome back. It's Maverick here today with episode 12 of Realist Hero. I think this is actually also the penultimate episode, so we are nearing the end of this season. Whether or not there's a second season, well, that remains to be seen. And by the way, sorry guys for delaying this a little bit. It is actually a consecutive holiday here, where I am, so I had to go prep some other stuff. But in any case, better late than never, as I always say. So anyways, back to the episode at hand. Well, the Civil War has been pretty effectively halted, right? It has concluded. Souma has won. He's got all three of the armies under all three branches of the military forces under him, as well as the Forbidden Army, and now they are about to go fight against the foreigners, right? The dirty foreigners driving from our country and whatnot. And yeah, he is actually not only driving them out, but in fact launching a counterattack on their capital. Now, how exactly is this going to play out, and how are we going to conclude this particular conflict? To be honest, I think it's going to be concluded in this one. I don't think there's actually that much material, and judging from the pacing of the other episodes so far, we shouldn't be dragging this out over an episode. So with that in mind, let's just get into the episode and see what happens. Alright, let's begin in 3, 2, 1, play. Alright. Men has fallen. Of course. It is actually... Oh, hold on a second. Alright, is he gonna say anything? No? Okay. Huh. We actually do have an army against army scene, eh? I wasn't quite expecting that, considering the level of animation and budget of this anime. But actually, I kind of forgotten, but I believe they didn't really go into it there, but two factors actually there's two factors working for Souma here, if I recall correctly. Number one is more obvious, right? In the last episode, we literally see the Amadomian army like force march all the way back to their capital, whilst taking harassment along the way, right? Once again, quite the cliche sort of military tactic here. It's been used numerous times in history, whether Eastern or Western, right? The concept of forcing your enemy to have a forced march, but then also, exhausting them at the same time, constantly harassing them and whatnot, so they will be fatigued before they even get to the battlefield, right? And that is obviously is very important here. More so in ancient times and medieval times than now. I mean, during those days, there weren't like APCs, armored personnel carriers, or whatnot. There weren't trucks to transport troops and so on and so forth. So they literally had to march like day and night and then immediately fight a battle. When you surround an army, leave an outlet free. Yeah, and that's actually also one of the very classic teaching of Sun Tzu in the Art of War. You can't force them to be to get into a situation with their backs against the wall, right? Or where the only yeah, actually, sorry. Leisha is actually supposed to be, that kind of character with that kind of dialogue. But the fact that, again, they're choosing to voice her in such a way really takes a lot of the sharpness out of it. But anyways, as I was saying, oh, there's so many things to say. So the saying there, right? You can't actually drive your enemies into like what is called a hopeless situation, right? Because there's two theories of thought, but at least for Sun Tzu, his theory is that if you drive them into a hopeless situation because there's nothing else to do but fight back with all their strength, they can essentially have like 1.5, even twice the amount of power of battle prowess than normal because they have their backs against the wall, right? Whereas there is a counter argument to this as well, which goes to if you put them into a hopeless situation, then you destroy their morale so much that they immediately surrender, right? So it's not exactly like concrete and whatnot. And right, so here we see Soma struggling to enter the realist mindset, right? Props. Oh, hey, actually, they did say this. Okay. Props to him, right? He's actually still, uh, even though he has been utterly defeated, he still recognizes like what is important. The other second thing that I kind of forgot whether happened or not is they were saying that the flags on the castle were still of themselves, right? Did the castle fall or not? I can't quite remember. Although I believe that is true. Um, Soma simply took up position between the city and this dude Gallius, right? Or Gaius. So cutting them off from the city in a sense, so forcing them to fight. See, by removing a lot of the monologues and whatnot, you might you look at that scene and you might be like, what that seemed kind of odd, kind of weird, right? And Carla is actually really being sort of like a tsundere here, and that's because throughout these past few days, I guess you could say, or weeks, staying beside Soma, she's actually changed her perception of Soma as well. I'm quite certain Carla is supposed to be like one of the wives of Soma as well. That's not exactly a spoiler because I haven't read that far, but I assume so. Hey. Boom. Props to Gaius, right? Whoop. See, that's actually an important speech there. Huh. And they just... Okay. They kind of just glossed over it. Rorora. Yep, still her father. Even though she's the reasonable and sensible one. So yeah, honestly, at this point in time, Hakia is much more the realist than Souma is. But you know, there is something to be said for you know, the actual leader, right? The highest leader to have a certain degree of humanity within himself and not just look things from a pure rational perspective. There is something to be said about that as well. I actually don't quite remember about that part. I'm assuming that Julius probably is going to be leading the resistance or whatnot, whereas Roroar might be more of the moderate faction. He looks more like Pancho looks more like, maybe a citizen of Amidomia, and he's like trembling over fear over what Souma's gonna do. Basically, he's about to take on the Empire, the alliance of mankind. Sima-chen. Sima-chen. I'm not quite sure which. Anyways, Gina. Woo! Of course, if it wasn't obvious, Juna is also one of his wives. I think. Sima-chen. I think that's probably an ancient Chinese military advisor, as well. I'm not exactly sure about how the romanization of the names go. Ooh, look at that dress. Anyways, a more modern concept, right? Conquering through culture. A culture takeover. Or, if any of you guys play Civilization, a culture victory. To be honest, I'm actually more interested in what were the contents of the news that they actually announced to the Amadonians. Real Carol. I actually don't quite remember this part. Okay, this is quite different from what I was expecting. Looking at the white gloves and whatnot, I thought they were going to go with like some Showa idol stuff. Was that Minasa Inori singing? It sounded very much like her. Oh well. We'll know at the end. And of course, the idol songstress. Nice. Nice bounce. Oh, Souma saw as well. Anyways, as I was saying, I'm actually quite curious, like, what news they announced to Amadomians, because it could easily be interpreted as propaganda as well, right? So you really need to walk a fine line there. Through the Valley of Godua. Lieutenant General, eh? So I guess she might be the... Talk about a militaristic state. If this is your national anthem, to be singing of war and whatnot. I mean, it's not exactly like... I mean, if you think about it, a lot of national anthems have some concept of war in there, right? But that one definitely was more like a call to arms in a sense. And this is where we're stopping? Alright. I'm gonna take a quick... Oh! Is it actually Miporin that's singing it? Okay. I'll take a quick look at to see like who actually was singing the songs, and I'll meet you guys after this. Well, okay guys, so, I was wrong. I thought that Pamio Caro character was voiced by, or her singing voice was voiced by Minase Inori, the voice actress of Alicia here. But in actual fact, it's actually Miporin, who is, I guess, most well known nowadays as the voice of Rimuru from Tensura. So, you know, props to her. I completely thought that voice was Minase Inori's. So, yeah, good job on that. And the other, the one who was voicing the Lieutenant General, I don't quite recognize her, so... in any case, so, as I said at the beginning of the episode, we are ending the conflict here, right? And to be completely honest, I don't quite remember what happens after this. I think this is about this is about the time when I stopped reading the light novel. Not because it wasn't interesting or anything, but because I simply didn't have enough time and whatnot. But beyond that, though, I mean, I'm presuming that if we're looking at, you know, what's left, right? I'm guessing Julius probably is going to try and drum up, you know, the resistance or whatnot, and still be a thorn to Souma's side. You know, I could potentially see a situation where he joins forces with the Alliance, you know, with the Empire and whatnot, and then tries to, you know, because they are a sort of a coalition, an alliance of some sort, right? And be like, hey, Empire dude, I'm part of the Alliance, you gotta help me take back my lands, or something of that sort. And then, you know, later on, we already know from Souma that the Empire is coming, later on also be on that side and try to fight against against Souma, right? I can really foresee a situation like that happening in the future. Whereas on the other side, right, Roroa, well, first of all, she's a girl, right? So immediately to me, I'm already thinking maybe she's another wife candidate for Souma, right? Don't forget, we can have 8, right? I wouldn't be surprised if all the other countries had like a sort of wife candidate as well, in terms of the storyline and whatnot. And then at the end of the day, we can all have like a united nation on this land. And heck, maybe even some of the demons, like maybe one of the demon lords is female or whatnot. I don't know, but I could totally see that kind of situation happening for this kind of isekai work. Anyways, that's kind of beyond the point. I'm guessing that Roroa is probably going to be more sympathetic and more willing to negotiate with Souma here, right? She's more of a moderate within the original council as well, the original court. Even though Souma did kill off her father, they had their differences, right? And Roroa, I don't know, but so far as I can see, she seems to be more of a rational and logical based person, right? So I think it's entirely possible that she is going to do what she believes is the best for the country and for humans and for herself as well, and probably be willing to go back to the throne. And I mean, I could totally see a situation where Soma just goes like, "Hey, Roroa, okay, you can have the throne here of Amadonia. I don't really want to, completely conquer this country or whatnot, right? Or maybe, I don't know, maybe make her like the prime minister or something, and they can have like sort of a king and prime minister kind of situation here." This is all speculation on my part. Like I said, I think I haven't read that far yet, but I think that is a pretty sensible guess from things here. So we'll see about that. There are numerous things in this episode that happened that they really did not touch on once again, and I mean, this has been a constant criticism of mine for the anime adaptation throughout the entire season, right, throughout the entire series, and I get it, this is an anime medium, they have to cut out some stuff, but I just want to re-emphasize that Realist Hero, this work is actually one that is very, very heavy on the monologues and the dialogues, right? The monologues as in, we know, like, completely what a character is actually thinking, and not just from Soma's perspective, but actually from many characters' perspective as well. We know, like, what they're thinking of, we know their concerns, we know, like, and through their monologues, we can get a better grasp on the actual situation in the world, right? And the dialogue part is also very important as well, because people are updating to Soma as to what the current world situation is, and then we're also hearing from Souma how he explains his plans and whatnot to various other characters. So this really this adaptation really takes out a lot of it, right? As I was trying to say during the beginning scenes of this episode, where we have, like, Carla being, like, kind of a tsundere in a sense. I'm not doing this for you, I'm doing this for Leisha, and so on and so forth, right? You might, if you watch a lot of anime or manga or whatnot, you probably realize that kind of cliche tone and that kind of cliche dialogue, right? But then it kind of falls flat a little bit, right? Because you don't understand, like, why is Carla being such a tsundere all of a sudden, right? Does he suddenly have feelings for Soma or whatnot? And the important thing there is that we actually do have a lot of monologue from her side as well, and a lot of dialogue between her and Leisha and with Soma as well. And so gradually, step by step, Carla is changing her perception of Soma as well. And that's why, to me, I actually do believe that Carla is probably also one of the future wives of Soma as well, right? It just makes the most sense here. So I think I need to just maybe also put that information out there in case some of you guys may think that scene to be quite weird on its own, right? Because at least to me, it was kind of like sticking out like a sore thumb. And then, another important thing here is actually when Soma defeated Gius, right? Or Gius? I can't quite remember. Anyways, he defeated the prince, right? The leading commander, the leader of the Amadomians. He made this point to actually I don't think they touched on here as well, and my memory is a little bit fuzzy, but I recall that he said those words that he said in this episode, but he used a method where he transmitted the words far, far away across the entire battlefield, right? Because that was something that he said not only to those around him, but no, the whole purpose of him saying those words is for the whole battlefield and indeed even the city of Van to hear, right? Because it's really important. One of the major concepts that we have and towards the end of this episode is how there is this deep hatred between these two countries, right? Or I guess more so on the Amazonian side. And so, this is a very delicate situation here, and you don't really want to trample on their national pride anymore, right? Otherwise, you're just gonna make things more hard for. You're gonna make things harder for yourself instead. So, they are a very militaristic state. They take pride in these sort of militaristic honors and traditions and whatnot, and so that's why Souma took a point to really respect the valor and honor of the leader there, of the prince there, so that he can sort of like signify to all the people of Amadonia as well that he respects their tradition, and I'm not here to trample over your values and whatnot. I simply want to get here, do what needs to be done, and if you can work together with me and we can come, hopefully there's a way that both sides can come out of this stronger, right? As we see here also at the very end, with the Lieutenant General, right, singing the national anthem and being like, okay, you can behead me right now and whatnot, and someone being like, hey, why should I? Can't we work together? And that sort of thing, right? Sort of like a cultural takeover, right? Which is indeed, I'm quite certain that Souma knows about this, right? He knows how wars, or I guess you can't really say war, right? But a lot of the jostling in the modern era, in the modern day, is through your cultural hegemony instead of some actual fighting with your armed forces and whatnot. And so, all different, all the countries of this world in this modern times, they're trying to export their culture, right? Their movies, their entertainment, their singers, their dramas, etc., etc. And, that actually affects or affects, right, other nations as well, right? They're more willing to accept your values instead, and you have a closer bond to them as a result of this. I'm certain Souma knows this very, very well, right? Because he is absolutely a guy who takes note of his history. Oh, just in fact, like for instance, the episode title here, as well as that dude that he mentioned, and actually, hold on, let me take a quick pause. Okay, sorry about that. I had to quickly look this up because I had a feeling that this was probably a historical figure, and I just couldn't quite figure out from the romanization of the name who exactly it was. So Souma quoted someone here, right, Sima Qian, who is actually an ancient Chinese scholar, and in fact he wrote Siji, which is the very, I guess you could say, the first official historical record of China, in a sense, of the actual nation and whatnot. Going all the way back to even the Qing dynasty and even before that as well. Basically the record and history of China all the way up to he's during the Han dynasty, right? And I think he's before the Three Kingdoms period. Actually, he's in the early stages of Han. But anyways, beyond that's kind of beside the point. But like I said, I think this is once again another sort of another piece of evidence that puts forth that which I've been saying, which is that the author of Realist Hero really takes a lot of his ideas and cliches and whatnot from a lot of ancient texts and whatnot, from both, he's definitely heavily inspired by ancient Chinese texts, and as well as probably some Japanese and also Western as well, right? So it's like this sort of mix of all these things together. Even we have that here, right? A direct quote from Sima Qian, and then also the episode title itself, right? You need to leave a way or an outlet for an army to escape. I've tried to explain it a little bit during the opening sequence, but basically the premise of it, at least to me, the first time I found out about this, where it was actually written down, was in The Art of War by Sun Tzu, which, he describes various different terrain types and whatnot, and he's very adamant in that, there is this certain sort of terrain type, which it was just called Sidi, which is, like, literally, like, death land or whatnot, which is, you can consider it a place where maybe your backs are to the river, or your backs are to a cliff or something, or your back is to a mountain. Like, basically you don't have anywhere else to maneuver and run away from, right? And if you get surrounded and whatnot, well, it's GG for you. So in that kind of situation, Sun Tzu says that, well, if you put your soldiers into that situation, they will actually be willing to fight even harder, because it's hopeless for them, right? It's literally a life or death situation. You can't run away anymore. You can't desert or whatnot. You literally have to go 100%, 150%, 200% of your power in order to survive, right? And so your combat capabilities will increase a lot if you enter into that kind of situation. And so that goes conversely as well. When you are trying to pursue an enemy, you have to take note not to put them into a situation where they can be completely wiped out, right? You got to give them a little bit of hope, some hope, and then you can instead rout them and finish off the battle much easier, right? So that is basically the type of situation here. I'm not quite sure how exactly it's utilized in terms of this particular battle. But certainly, it's a common trope indeed throughout history and throughout like Chinese militaristic history. Literally every single military leader read The Art of War by Sun Tzu later on. But yeah. Anyways, I don't think it's really utilized to full effect here. But well, I guess once again you can just view this as a piece of evidence that the author is really taking a lot of his ideas and inspiration from these ancient texts, right? So yeah, anyways, we got that to go. And for the rest, well, yeah, I think that's it, right? Going forward, I don't really think I read that far, so it's gonna be new to me as well. But I already set my predictions here. I think probably they are going to find a way to at least have an uneasy peace here in Van, like Platoon General might shake hands with Souma and whatnot. I'm expecting Rorora, the girl, the princess, to come back and potentially work together with Souma to govern the nation and whatnot. And I'm expecting Julius to instead fall back and go all the way towards the Empire, get reinforcements there, and come back with an army to reinvade Amadonia and take back what is rightfully his throne and vengeance for his father and that kind of sort of thing. But that is all speculation. In any case, I will see you guys next week as well for the grand finale. Stay tuned and bye bye.